Welcome to Lifeword's Day by Day. We're in John chapter 18, and we're thinking about evidences that show that Jesus was actually in control of his own crucifixion. John 18, we first take note of the setting. It's a garden, and we cannot help but remember that significant events take place in gardens. It was in a garden that Adam listened to the serpent's whisper. It was in the garden that Adam hid from God because of his guilt and shame. It was in the garden when mankind was plunged into sin. And then at the beginning of Jesus' ministry, you remember that we find Jesus, not in a garden, but in a desert. It's the anti-garden. It's the picture of what a garden looks like that has been devastated by a lack of nutrition, much like our souls apart from God. And there, the devil attempts to draw Jesus away from his mission with the same tactics he used on Adam. But the devil would discover that this Jesus, the second Adam, the last Adam, the greater Adam, was a little tougher, a little more wise, and able to withstand the onslaught of the devil. And Jesus did this the entirety of his life and ministry. But now in John 18, we find ourselves in another garden. Jesus, knowing he was about to be betrayed and crucified. Would Jesus maintain this resiliency he showed in the desert 3 years earlier? Or would he act more like the first Adam? In this garden, instead of listening to the serpent, the greater Adam, Jesus, is talking with God. Instead of hiding from God's presence because of shame, Jesus is seeking God's company and making himself available to overcome sin, not to cover it up. But we notice something else about being in the garden, and this is what John is really doing here. This garden is not a hiding place. This garden was a familiar place. Jesus and the disciples, including Judas, had come here many times. If Jesus were trying to hide, trying not to get caught, why would he come to a familiar place? But in fact, Jesus is not hiding. He wants to be found. In all the conversation that takes place in chapters 14 through 16 and 17, there is this clock that is ticking in Jesus' mind. He does not want to show up to the garden late. It's not that he wants to find cover. He wants to be there when Judas shows up. Why? Because Jesus is the one in charge, and he's ready to face the cross. As you pray today, please remember Daisuke Okada and his family, our missionaries in Japan. And also remember the VI Lifeword broadcast that's heard throughout Liberia.